Witchers. We spend most of our life risking it, hunting monsters, taking on contracts, but the world is much bigger than us, as I have come to learn on my travels. Now, I think it's time to share what I have learned. Relict. An interesting category of monster. In my opinion, many monsters end up in this group simply because the scholars don't know where else to put them. If a monster's origins can be traced to ancient times and it fits into no other established category, generally I find it's just called a relict. For this reason, this group of monsters is one of the most diverse, and today's entry is on one of the more dangerous of these monsters. Today's entry is on Leshens. Found in some of the more ancient woods and forests of the world, Leshens are one of the rarest and most powerful of all monsters you might encounter on the continent. The average Leshen's appearance consists of an antlered buck skull and a lightly clothed, slender wooden body, sometimes covered in fungi, various parasitic plants, and fetishes. From their appearance alone, I think it's safe to say that it is clear there is more to this monster than the average drowner or necker. I mean, by all laws of biology, this creature should not be walking around, let alone be an alpha predator in whatever territory it's decided to claim for itself. For this reason, many believe Leshens to be forest spirits, meaning that the form we see is not their true form, but it is the form they use to interact with the world. An inconsistency I've found with this theory is the obvious why do most Leshens appear visually similar. For this potential inconsistency, I'd say that perhaps Leshens simply have a tendency to go for the form they are generally found in. I'll also say that I have seen slight variation with some of the Leshens I've encountered. For example, some ancient Leshens appear noticeably different to their younger brethren, and the Spriggans, a subspecies of Leshen, have even more unique characteristics. Also, I'll add, just to sort of combat this theory even more, that it is known that Leshens can be male or female, indicating that they breed, or perhaps possess a physical feature indicating their gender. I suppose it's also possible that you can determine a Leshen's gender just by its general nature. Leshens come in varied forms. There are the most common Leshens, which look the way I described earlier on in the entry. There are the older Leshens, which look similar to the common Leshen, but at least from my experience have larger antlers and are more, I suppose, overgrown than their younger counterparts. Although it is possible that as Leshens get older, they develop their own unique characteristics, as there have been conflicting reports about whether certain unique ancient Leshens are in fact unique younger Leshens. But as these creatures are so rare, it's hard enough to get a large enough sample of them to test this theory. In fact, to expand a little, it's worth mentioning that there have been encounters with unique Leshens that for one reason or another have developed slight variances to the general Leshen population. For example, by say having their bark a lighter shade. There are also the Spriggans, which are still technically Leshens, although they are more of a subspecies of Leshen, meaning that they have developed a common genetic difference to the normal Leshen, but still possess enough similarities to be classed as a subspecies. I talked about the locations these monsters make their homes in briefly at the start of the entry, but to truly understand the mind of this monster, it is worth looking into their environment in more detail. Leshens are pretty much only found in forests and other wooded areas, and in most cases these locations are old, meaning these wooded areas have existed for some time, and most likely will be pre-conjunction. Bear in mind, Leshens don't tend to live on the outskirts of these areas, they claim their territory deep within the trees. By claim territory, I literally mean claim territory. Leshens guard their homes from any sort of threat, viewing armed humans of any kind as an encroacher or challenger. This includes groups like brigands, woodsmen, and hunters. In fact, this is one of the main reasons Leshens are so dangerous to humans. Humans desire expansion and control, so they cut deeper and deeper into forests for valuable resources and land, but not all land is there for humans to take. it can already belong to someone else, and in a Leshen's case, it can belong to a being far more powerful than the average human, and in some cases, more powerful than the average Witcher. It has been said that Leshens are mean, self-serving creatures, however I would argue the same applies to most humans. In my opinion, Leshens are simply defending their land. I'd even go as far to say they have arguably a greater claim to whatever territory they live in than whoever wishes to move into the area or cut it down for lumber. The fact is, unless they are provoked or someone enters their land uninvited, Leshens are relatively peaceful. Leshens do not go to human settlements and take over their land. The same goes for Spriggans, who generally live in areas similar to Leshens and have a similar nature, although on rare occasions, Spriggans have also been known to make their homes in uninhabited caves. There's a title the Leshens are known by to many common folk: the Lord of the Forest. This is for, of course, good reason. Leshens have command over both plants and animals. More specifically, they seem to have control over wolves, crows, trees, and in some reports, neckers. If you're ever in a situation where you must fight one of these creatures, your most useful ally is fire. Failing that, just watch out for its melee attacks, as although slow, if one manages to land, for a non-Witcher it's game over. Be aware also of the wolves Leshens can summon to assist them, and a sort of smoke form they take on, seemingly with the assistance of their crow allies. It's worth noting that some reports on these monsters also state they're able to heal any woodland creature. Finally, watch out for when they thrust their arms into the ground, for this is when a Leshen calls upon the roots of nearby trees to attack. Older Leshens, or ancient Leshens, fight in a very similar way to the younger of their species, except their smoke form is a little more developed, allowing them to actually teleport, making them an even greater foe. I believe normal Leshens can also teleport, just to a lesser extent. Ancient Leshens have also been known to have the ability to mark people. Marking is when an ancient Leshen imbues its essence into a person. This is assuming that a Leshen's lair is near enough to a human settlement. As long as that person remains in the settlement, the Leshen can be reborn at its lair should it be killed. The way you would counter this is either A, killing the marked person, or B, banishing the person from the area. I would say in most cases, B is preferred. The subspecies of Leshen, Spriggan, fight in a slightly different way to the ancient and normal Leshen. Instead of calling upon wolves and crows to help, they possess a greater mastery over plants. In fact, they have such a deep connection and are so inextricably tied to them that if someone were to destroy any form of greenery in their territory, they would kill them without mercy. Like ancient Leshens, Spriggans can also teleport, except they seemingly use the roots of trees to assist them instead of crows. Perhaps the visual appearance of crows and roots are just that, a visual appearance, and both Spriggans and ancient Leshens use the same magical ability to teleport, but this isn't something we have enough evidence to categorically conclude. Spriggans are also much faster than Leshens, and some of the more powerful Spriggans can summon archespores to assist them in battle, an ally that is far more deadly than the average pack of wolves. The way in which they summon archespores and roots is in the same way Leshens call upon roots. They thrust their arms into the ground, so when fighting a Spriggan or Leshen, be aware of everything I have mentioned and also keep in mind the differences between each variant. This monster has had a fairly substantial impact on the peoples of the Northern Realms and beyond, with many legends and almost cults forming around them. One legend states that Leshens can assume many forms, from any forest predator, be that a wolf, bear, wildcat, or flock of birds, to a hunched old man with skin the colour of bark and hair made of moss and leaves, to the classic clawed beast with a horned deer skull. They are even worshipped in some parts of the world as gods of nature, reportedly under many different names, such as Kurnos and Kurdon. The practice of worshipping these monsters led to many other legends, such as the myth that Leshens will drive prey towards hunters and help lost pilgrims find their way through the forest. It is clear that Leshens are a powerful monster, possessing far more prestige and position in the world of monsters compared to, say, a drowner. They have dominion over land, other creatures, and sometimes even humans, a talent not held by many of their fellow monsters. They also have an understandable motive in their actions. Humans have been encroaching upon their territory for a long time now, just as they did with the elves and their cities. And, well, look what happened to the elves. If I was a Leshen, I would defend my home and way of life too. This is a fact I came to realize too late. I've already hunted down and killed many of these monsters, but no more. However, that is a story for another time.